Good afternoon.
How's it going?
It's pretty quiet here right now.
All right, but so I just want to say thank you to you for representing our community at large at that very important table, and to bring London's voice and perspective and lens to those important discussions, and for being a key leader, not just here in the city of London, but also beyond. So thank you for that, Mayor. Uh, Speaking of congratulations, I want to say congratulations to Rick Robson on a well-deserved recognition, who recently received the PAO Association Leadership Award. Well, I think you were at was it the Beyond the Blue gala there? And so kind of uh, in recognition of your hard work and your dedication and your passion, Rick, I know that wasn't, you've been recognized more than one time recently, and that's a testament to your hard work and your dedication and your passion for everything that you do for the service and the association, and for the city as a whole. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the board, thank you for everything that you do. Um, and I also wanted to, I think I strategically did the congratulatory stuff up front here, but I also do want to state that this has been a difficult month for members of the larger community, the Muslim community, and our policing community that have had to relive to varying degrees kind of the trauma that took place here in our city from June 6, 2021. Um, there's a trial that's taking place 2 hours and 200 kilometers down the street from here that is of great importance for a whole different people, a variety of people for a whole different variety of reasons. And I want to acknowledge that it's a very difficult time for members of the community, and specifically members of the Muslim community in particular. And I know that our officers are engaged in that trial, and I know that members from across the community are engaged there. And I just wanted to just state at the beginning of the meeting that our thoughts and prayers are not just with the larger community or the Muslim community, but with the Afzal family, the extended members of the Afzal family as they go through this difficult time. So, and with that, we'll get into the formal agenda here. So as is the practice, do any of the members have any conflicts of interest or disclosures of interest that they want to make? Okay, seeing none. Is there any new business that any of the members want to advance or add on the agenda for today's meeting? Seeing none. In your package, board, you'll see that we have the minutes from our last public board meeting which was held on June 15, 2023. Are there any revisions, amendments, suggestions based on the minutes in your package? All right, seeing none, can I get a mover for the following motion that we approve the board minutes as presented in the June 15, 2023 public meeting? I think that was moved by member Branscombe, seconded by Vice Chair Walker. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Okay. Agenda item number 5 relates to the collection, preservation, and control of property and evidence adequacy standards report. I'm going to look over to Deputy Chief McIntyre for your report. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Chair, through you. So this report comes to the board through adequacy. The police are required to report on any personal property, money, firearms that have come into the possession of the London Police. And that window of time that we report on is from July 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2023. So the report's self-explanatory, but just for the public's interest, I'll walk them through. In that reporting period, 36 roughly 100 items come into our property room. We're able to find owners for many of those, and in some cases we are not. They could include things like clothing or tools, electronics, etc. Firearms, jewelry, bicycles, drugs, liquor, you name it. An increase for sure of almost 1,000 items over last year. In total, 1,200 of these roughly items were taken into our property room. 1,100 roughly were disposed of, but the report specifies those details. We also receive and take in unclaimed money with whom we can't find the owner to. That in this reporting period was roughly $7,000 Canadian and 400 or so US. We received 26,927, so $26,927 just as a result of 2 online auctions. So those are items that we cannot find the owner for, they go to auction. and we receive monies for those. And $59 Canadian was derived from like scrap metal and liquor bottle returns, things like those. Every item we have to take in, we have to track, and we have to dispose of according to legislation. During the reporting period, 517 firearms were either seized, found by London officers. 80 were returned to their lawful owner. The remaining are scheduled to be destroyed. And of course, that's done under close supervision. So in total, the financial impact to the board is a receipt of $34,356 and 411 US during this reporting period. Those funds are deposited into the board's sundry revenue account. And it's just my recommendation that the board receive this report.
Thank you, Deputy Chief McIntyre. Members, do we have any questions of Deputy Chief McIntyre flowing from the report? Yep, Member Goss.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just curious on the one note on the firearms. It says due to staffing issues, no firearms were destroyed during this reporting period. Could you just speak to a little bit more on that and when those would be destroyed?
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. So our members, sworn members, will escort and take those to the disposal location. So based on scheduling, summer holidays, etc., they didn't have the staffing to do that. So that they're housed here, they're in a secure facility. There's no real issue with that delay, but they'll make arrangements to do it when staffing levels permit.
Do you follow up? No. All right. Thank you. Any other members have questions for Deputy Chief McIntyre flowing from the report? Seeing not, okay. Member Branscombe has moved that the board, I'll just put my glasses on, that the board receives for informational purposes the report titled Collection, Preservation, and Control of Property and Evidence Adequacy Standards Report, moved by Member Branscombe, seconded by Member Goss. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 6. I'll look over to you, Deputy Chief Bastine, for the Crime Stopper Statistical Report, Quarter 2, 2023. Over to you.
There we go. Sorry, Chair, through you. You have the report before you. Just simply, I'll provide a high-level summary verbally. Crime Stoppers is a registered nonprofit with whom in partnership we find ourselves. It offers an avenue to the public to report criminal activity and offenses anonymously. And tipsters are eligible for cash rewards of up to $2,000. So you have statistics in the report which show at a high level the number of tips received Q2 this year are roughly the same as the same period last year. And so we're on pace to match the total number of tips received by year end. The statistics do show a gradual decline over 5 years. Those are reflected not only in the number of tips we receive, but also the amount of cash paid out and the number of charges laid. So unless there are questions, that's the report with the recommendation that the board receive it for its information.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Bastine. Mayor.
Yes, I just wanted to make the comment, and to the Deputy Chief, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can see that although the numbers may have gone down over a 5-year period, it seems like, one good call at the right time can produce some pretty large results like you saw in 2022. And so I certainly wouldn't want people to judge the value of the program based on those statistics, because there can be quite an impact if the right person calls in the right way at the right time.
Thank you. Yes, through you, Chair. That's a good point. So sheer number doesn't matter. It's the quality of the information that and what it ultimately leads to. And we know that it is one avenue of people to engage with us. There are others, of course, but significantly can lead to significant seizures or charges laid.
Thank you for the question. I can also tell you I used to sit on the Elgin Middlesex London Crime Stoppers Board of Directors for years, and that downward trend, that trajectory isn't just specific to this region. It's basically right across the province and the country. So it's something that's larger. It's a larger thing that's taking place, but nonetheless, quality, not quantity, right? So any additional questions for Deputy Chief Bastine with regards to the Crime Stoppers report? Thank you. Member Goss moved, Vice Chair Walker seconded.
No.
Did you? Yeah, no problem. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next agenda. So it's agenda item number 7 in the report. I'm going to look over, stay with you, Deputy Chief Bastine. We have the suspect apprehension pursuits, the quarterly report.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So the report is submitted pursuant to the board policy with respect to pursuits, which we know are low frequency and high risk events. Therefore, they warrant a lot of there's a high degree of oversight, training, and checks and balances in terms of engaging the pursuits. 3 elements to a pursuit, essentially, that an officer attempts to stop the driver of motor vehicle, the driver refuses to stop, and then the officer elects or decides to pursue to stop the vehicle or to identify an occupant in the vehicle. Importantly, there's a test that has to be conducted prior to engaging the pursuit and continuously throughout a pursuit. And that test is to establish the reason for the pursuit, consider alternatives, and consider immediacy, which essentially is balancing the need to apprehend stop the vehicle and apprehend the individual to prevent a risk to public safety, balanced against the risk to public safety posed by engaging the pursuit in the first place. So the statistics there, you see that the numbers, the total number of pursuits continues to turn downwards. And significantly, I think, is the period in 2022 during which we had training delivered. It was the first time that was delivered in a long period of time with the LPS. But over the course of roughly 6 months, the training unit delivered theoretical and practical training with respect to engaging pursuits and everything that leads to them. And as a result, we see that compliance with procedure is very good and the sheer number is low. And likewise, thankfully, damage to vehicles and personal injury is essentially 0 at this point throughout the year. Subject to any questions, that's the report. Recommended that the board receive it for its information.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief Bastine. Any questions for Deputy Chief Bastine with regards to the report? I have one very just quick question. Whenever I see a 3-part test, my mind goes to case law or legislation. Maybe for general counsel, but is this that 3-part test? Is that basically found within like it's not a London police? I imagine it's a test that's right across the service, right? Is that based on your jurisprudence or case law, or is it statute? Like where do we get that 3-part test from?
That is in regulations,
Yeah, okay.
pursuant to the act, and is of course mirrored in our procedure.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, any further questions? Yep, Counselor.
Deputy Chief, there's high incidence of, just based on complaints I receive, of high-speed motorcycle chases. And I have personally encountered, unfortunately, a serious accident relating to that. And my conversations with actually a few of the cyclists that stopped blocks away from it and then took off, is that many are fully aware of police careful consideration of chasing them, and often they're unregistered, uninsured, and they know they can escape because they're willing to obviously engage in unsafe driving. How can we, as police services, combat that to ensure our other drivers and pedestrians and et cetera are safe from these folks?
Thank you, and Chair, through you, just to make sure I understand the question with respect, I think you prefaced it as pursuits of motorcycles, or just motorcycles sort of driving or racing around the.
Yeah, so there's pocket rocket motorcycles that are racing through our streets. I hear complaints, I hear them myself, and I hear complaints all the time. And the police are unable to engage in chasing them down, and they know it. And so the problem continues. Is there a way that we can address that? Because I'm sure it's not just in London, but it's elsewhere.
Thank you, Chair, for you. So it is challenging for a number of reasons, not the least of which a motorcycle is it's an inherently dangerous vehicle to operate. And in the context of a pursuit, we know that pursuing one is extremely high risk for everybody involved. We know that even we've had cases reported, I'm sure here through SIU reports to the board of the aftermath of even attempting a stop, let alone a pursuit. Motorcycle takes off and there's resulting in a collision or serious injury. So we have to be typically. You're right. There is. I think it's well known that it's no secret that's difficult to even keep up with a motorcycle. Frankly, they're maneuverable. They're far more maneuverable than a motor vehicle. We do struggle with if the vehicle isn't registered, then that is another problem, as you mentioned. We have the automatic license plate reading technology on the cruisers, which is only as effective as the information it receives in, of course, and the fact that operators are wearing helmets. So even to identify the driver of a vehicle is challenging. So really, it's a tall task, but we have to be resourceful in terms of following up on the information we do have. So if we can, depending on the severity of the incident under investigation or the driving behavior that we're investigating, canvassing for video, we can get good descriptions of clothing, the bike itself, helmet, that sort of thing. And for that, we rely on information from the public. So it is, and we can be proactive in the sense too, at a project level from time to time, using unmarked cars or run projects where we help to identify operators so that down the road we have a database of bikes, clothing, et cetera, that kind of thing. So it requires being creative. It's no secret that it is difficult and it's challenging, but it requires creativity and a bit more legwork.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Any further questions? Okay, so I'll need a motion. Thank you, Member Branscombe, that the board receives for informational purposes the suspect apprehension pursuits quarterly report, moved by Member Branscombe, seconded by Councillor Stevenson. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Deputy Chief Bastine, we get used to it. We're coming to you, right? So yeah, right back at you.
Chair, through you, the report with respect to a Section 32 investigation. Following, sorry, I'll back up. This relates to an incident dating back to March 1st, 2023, at which time Foot Patrol officers responded to a call regarding an assault with the suspect still remaining in the vicinity outside the library on Dundas Street, Central Library. Foot Patrol officers arrived, located the suspect who, upon arrest, resisted and was taken to the ground by force. Empty-hand force was used. He was taken back to headquarters detention unit where he was booked in and later complained of some pain. He was taken to hospital where a fractured rib was diagnosed, thus invoking the mandate of the SIU. Notification was made, an investigation followed, and the date escapes me. In June 2023, the director cleared the officer, essentially saying that the officer had acted lawfully throughout the total engagement with the individual. The follow-up investigation conducted by members of our professional standards branch likewise found that the officers complied with our procedure in relation to the use of force and arrest, and also that there was no evidence of misconduct on the part of the officers. Subject to any questions, that's the report and the recommendation that the board receive it for information purposes.
Thank you for that report. Any questions from the members with regards to Deputy Chief's report? Thank you. Moved by Member Goss, seconded by Member Branscombe. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. As I said, Deputy Chief Bastine, staying with you, we have the service complaints. So agenda item number 9, right, sticking with you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Have two to bring to the board's attention today. Both relate to the response times, which to the board and to members of the public who've read our annual report and follow closely know that that's a challenge, has been a challenge for us, and one that we are not performing well at in terms of responding to the expectations based essentially on resourcing largely. On January 19th at 8 a.m., the complainant called to report that he could hear somebody screaming in a neighboring apartment and what sounded like might be somebody trying to kick a door in. 23 minutes later, officers were dispatched and arrived shortly thereafter. They spoke with the female occupant of the neighboring apartment who was alone there, and they found no evidence of that she'd been assaulted, and she was unwilling to provide information to the officers with respect to that. Later that same day, just after 7 p.m., the same complainant called to report the sound of another disturbance occurring within that same apartment. At that time, he thought it was a woman screaming at two males outside the apartment. At 8:32, so over an hour later, the complainant called once again to say that the neighbor was yelling for people to leave and that somebody had tried to hit her. Officers were dispatched at 8:58 p.m. and arrived shortly thereafter and spoke to the female occupant of the apartment, who once again was unwilling to provide information, and the officers were unable to substantiate reports of an assault within the apartment. Professional Standards Branch investigated the complaint and examined the information that the call takers had at the time it was received, and through the course of successive calls to 911. Also provided, they determined that the call had been coded appropriately as code 2, meaning requiring an urgent response. At that time, they looked back and saw that there were, they checked historical data, they saw that there were 35 other code 2s, so other urgent calls also waiting to be serviced at that time. Sorry, I got to correct that. There were 35 calls for service waiting, 14 of them were urgent response. This is in relation to the 8 o'clock in the morning call. The later one, later that same day, of course, there are a higher number of calls in the queue. That time there were 34 calls waiting to be dispatched as urgent. Officers were not dispatched until an hour and 46 minutes later, after the original 911 call. So we know that's a problem. We know that people, when a person makes a report, although in this case this wasn't a self-reporting, this wasn't a victim of an assault reporting, this was a bystander. But we know that time is precious and we need to respond better. So, but we know that the time to respond to urgent and non-urgent calls is an issue that's been identified and reported on previously and currently before us to tackle and before this board. On June 5th, pursuant to the Act, the complainant was provided with notice that no further action would be taken and notified of his right to appeal that decision. So this report is before the board to accept for its information purposes only, subject to any questions you have. Thank you, Chair. Through you. So this is another service complaint in relation to response time. On January 17th at 3:02 in the afternoon, the complainant called 911 to report that her son, 26 years old, was threatening suicide. Information was provided to us that suggested he had left the residence. That she had left the residence and was taking her child to school. Call for service was generated based on the urgency score. about 23 minutes later, the complainant called 911 a second time to report that her son now had left the apartment. There was a third call received, still no dispatch. 4:37 p.m., about an hour and a half after the initial call, the complainant called to cancel our attendance. So that's another story that we've heard. This is not the first time we've heard that happen. Problem has resolved in this case, thankfully, because the complainant was able to engage some of their personal supports to help her speak to her son and resolve the situation. Notwithstanding that, on April 18th, we received a complaint that had been sent to us through the OAPRD with respect to the response time. That investigation determined that at the time there were already 40 calls for service. A number of those 40 calls for service waiting, a number of those were coded as urgent. No officers declared to attend those. So this was put in the queue and assessed as time went on. And again, without repeating what I mentioned last time, there are efforts underway. It's an issue identified. It's a priority for us in our strategic plan moving forward to make improvements with respect to response time, provide through resourcing to the officers who need assistance on the front line. Response was provided to that complainant, and they were notified of their right to appeal. And this report is submitted for the information of the board, subject to any questions you have.
I'm the one who normally warns about that, so, okay. Yeah, okay, so thank you for that. Moving on in the agenda, we have our two advisory panels. We have the anti-racism advisory panel update and then also the mental health advisory panel update. They're going to be very brief. All I can say about the anti-racism advisory ARAP is that we met on September 6th, that the next meeting is October 4th, and that we're just looking at our terms of reference. So a very brief update for ARAP, and I know Vice Chair Walker with them have similarly short.
Yeah, we also met on September 6th, or did you say the 4th?
6th.
6th?
Yeah.
And our next meeting is October 4th.
Thank you very much there. Agenda item number 12 deals with the chair's verbal update, and I expressed this privately to chiefs and deputy chiefs earlier today, but I do want to state it publicly. I know that yesterday was an active day in the city of London. There was a series of protests in our core, both at the city hall and the school board, and that there were resources that were deployed across the city where different groups of people were expressing themselves. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board for the professionalism of the London Police Service in handling. There was quite a number of people. I think we were talking a couple thousand, I think, where I'd seen estimates. So not an easy situation. And I just want to thank the service for their professionalism and their experience and their with regards to managing that. So publicly, thank you very much for that. And I know that homecoming is just around the corner and people are taking to the streets for different reasons, but they're in the streets, right? And so again, I know that we're in very, very good and capable hands with the service in terms of that. So thank you for that as well. I do want to just say one thing that I think is worth noting, and I know it doesn't kind of fall within the conventional parameters of what is normally in a chair's verbal update, but I want to say it anyways. I've been following, as I referenced in my opening comments about the Afzal trial that's taking place in Windsor, and I've noticed that personal observations that there's a lot of people are impacted by this trial in a lot of different ways, and sometimes we think that certain individuals or certain offices or certain positions are insulated from the trauma that attaches to that. But if anybody has been kind of following along, you can see that there's been a degree of trauma that's been impacted across the community from anybody that's touched this case, whether it's from judicial officers, judges to paramedics, from lawyers that have had to handle the case, to police officers, from members of the public to members of the media. Anybody that's really touched this case in some form has experienced some degree of trauma, because I think we sometimes forget that you can't. Sometimes you see things that you can't unsee, and you hear things that you can't unhear, and you feel things that you can't unfeel. And it's one thing that we talk about policing, quite a bit here, obviously for obvious reasons, but we sometimes don't pay the requisite amount of attention to the trauma that our police officers have to deal with on a day in and day out basis. The stuff that never makes it to the media, that never makes it to the reports, that the vast majority of citizens of London never will ever have to deal with. And I just, I know it's with regards to this very high profile trial that's taking place, but it just serves as a reminder that our officers see things every day that they can't unsee, and they hear things that they can't unhear, and they feel things that they can't unfeel, and they have to maintain the highest standards of professionalism, but they suffer trauma. And a reminder for myself, first and foremost, the board, and for members of the public, that we appreciate the work that our officers do on a day in and day basis, despite the mental health challenges and despite the trauma that they have to face every single day. And I just, again, wanted to take this platform and this opportunity to say thank you to the three of you, and by extension, the rest of the service, for everything that you do and the trauma that you have to endure every day. And I've seen some of the testimony about some of the officers at that trial in Windsor, and it's heartbreaking to see today in particular, is heartbreaking to see how it's impacted our officers. And I just wanted to say, in this instance and in other instances, we use the term "thank you for your service," and it almost sounds generic sometimes when people say, "Oh, thank you for your service," almost like it's just a generic thing to say. But from all of us, thank you for your service, and thank you for the time, effort, and resources, and dedication and passion that you bring to the role every day. And so I just wanted to say thank you. So, Chief.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I just, on behalf of the organization, I know it means a lot to the membership that they have the support of the board, and recognizing what they're going through, as we recognize what the community is going through. So thank you on behalf of the organization. And I just will just add as well, with respect to the protest yesterday and for the last little bit, we have commanders Scott Guilford, Superintendent Guilford, and Inspector Scribbins, that they're the best of the best in terms of their leadership, and we have some really good people in this organization on the ground keeping this community safe. So on their behalf, thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Chief. That's my verbal update, members. I don't know if there's any questions or any follow-up from that, but if not, I'll just need a motion to accept the verbal update related to the business of the board. Yep, moved by Member Goss, seconded by Councillor Stevenson. Assuming no one is opposed, that is carried. Ms. Foster, agenda item number 13 is the administrative verbal update. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Just something super quick. The Community Safety Wellbeing Team, under city leadership, but the police are involved, and the police board has communicated to me that they've launched the application portal for a grant program, which is called London's Building Safer Communities Fund Grant Program. I've got the link if anybody's interested and wants to see it, but you can probably Google that and find out more. So for any organizations that you might be involved with that might want to participate in that, and we know lots of organizations need money right now. So just wanted to let you know about that, and that's my update. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Any questions for Ms. Foster with regards to the administrative report? Right, seeing none, just a motion to accept for informational purposes. Councillor Lehman, seconded by Member Branscombe. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. I don't believe we had any new business. I don't recall, right? Okay, so no new business. Now, the best part of the meeting, guys. So, if you draw your attention to the back of the room there's some outstanding and fine individuals that have been, and I mean this in the most sincere sense, have graced us with their presence today. I'm going to read this verbatim, and then I'm going to share some things here with you. So, on the 30-year anniversary of the London Police Service's Rookie League Baseball, Mike Smith is joining us today to be awarded with the London Police Services Board citizen citation for community support and financial generosity to the London Police Service Rookie League Baseball sponsorship and community at large. A lot of you don't know this, which is probably because Mike didn't want you to know this, but the company created a donation program some 30 years ago where his staff donated from their paychecks. Every single paycheck, there would be a donation amount taken off that would support these programs. And then Mike, through his companies, would then match those donations. And as a result of this, Rookie League Baseball and many, many other important organizations and community initiatives, as well as many, many, many youth in our community have benefited from Mike's generosity and, by extension, the generosity of his staff. I had a chat yesterday with Mike. We had a beautiful chat. Anybody who speaks with Mike, it's impossible not to feel the warmth and sincerity from him. And when, we often say, oh, somebody's reputation precedes them, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not, right? But when you say, or you reference, or you talk about Mike Smith in our community, you'd be hard pressed to find one person, like a single person, that doesn't have just the most glowing things to say about the man in his personal and in his professional capacity. And you can look to your left and your right as much as you want, Mike, but you are a community leader. You are a respected voice. You are a philanthropist. You are responsible for many excess pounds of weight that I have on me, right? So, right. As recently as this afternoon, we had our lunch from Joe Cool's, and I'm starting to feel the pizza coma right now. But Mike, to you and your staff, I just want to say that not just the board, not just the service, not just the city, but the community is in your debt. And I can't think of a more deserving person than Mike Smith for the recognition, for the citizen recognition that we're providing you today. And yesterday when I spoke with you, humility and I was saying, Mike, about all these nice things, and he said, it's not about me, Ali. It's about the people that I work with over the years. And I see Ron next to him, and I see members of his staff. And honestly, we as a community are in your debt, sir. And I threw the first pitch out at the Rookie League baseball tournament last year, and I can't, like, to the board. I know some board members have been there, but next year, if you want to see the actual faces of joy personified, just go look at those kids out at Labatt Park, right? Throwing the ball around, playing baseball. And if you talk to them, and I remember Jen, you and I were there, and I talked to maybe a dozen of them, and it's like they were playing in the big leagues. Like, they were under the lights, they were at Labatt Park. And truth be told, I felt the same. I was like, I stood there and I'm like, I wonder if I could go yard if I get the right pitch, right? And so, and if it was socially acceptable, I may have had one of the kids just throw some pitches in to see if I could make it. But in all honesty, to see these young folks and see the actual impact, not in an abstract sense, not in a theoretical sense, but in a real sense, to see these opportunities that they've been presented in large part because of your generosity and your kindness and that of your staff after not 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, but 30 years of doing this. It's incredible, Mike. And I know we chatted yesterday about Damian Warner, this year, and to see a real life hero, a word that we sometimes misuse or misapply. Damian Warner is recognized as one of the world's greatest athlete, or the world's greatest athlete, and to see him, participate at the Rookie League. But you had a major part, and your staff had a major part in making that a reality. And I think the word to say thank you it doesn't fully encapsulate the full extent of what we're trying to say. But Michael, thank you. Ron, thank you. To your entire staff, thank you for everything that you do and what you represent. We are in your debt. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's get a picture of it.
Yeah. And so, Mike, I know you're gonna hate this part, but can I ask you and then your staff to just maybe come over here? Chief Trung and I are gonna present you with a nice certificate, a frame certificate that hopefully you'll hang somewhere. Maybe at Joe Cool's when I go to get something, I'll see it up there, right? So yeah, come on. If you can join us up here for a second. What we do, Chief and I, and then we'll go about the snap. So there you go.
People laughing.
Right?
Then I smidge more.
All right.
Oh. Yep.
Right, and then can we get everybody else?
Yeah, I'll have to go back
I
here.
want your phone. How you doing, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Very good.
Good. Nice stuff. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Just kept reading.
So Mike, can I get you to hold that there? Is that, are we?
Nice. I'm gonna take a few and make sure everybody's eyes are open. That's a good thing. Okay, go through just to make sure I got everybody. Righty. Thank you.
All right. I was gonna ask Mike if you could, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. So,
Okay.
Mike, I just want to open the floor to you just to share some thoughts, and whatever you want to say with the board and with the community here. So,
Okay. Thank you so much to everybody, and thank you for your kind. Can you repeat it again, Ali? I don't think I could hear.
I was, my heart doesn't have a transcript, my friend. So I was reading from there. So.
Uh-oh. Well, I'd like to say I'm lost for words, but that's not true. I wanted to introduce people here that had a big part, in fact, the biggest part. That I kind of like this. I get all the credit, but they did all the work. So if we can keep doing it this way. We have Diane Silva from the London Community Foundation here. And Diane arranged it that the way we started this out was employees gave $1 a week on their paychecks. So it'd be a couple dollars, which isn't too much over the long thing. And then we matched it. And we got a fair amount of money, and 100 cents on the dollar goes to the campaign to get kids in positive activities. And through the police, they've been unbelievable to work with. We've done the Rookie League for baseball. We've done basketball for years. And the kids come from places like Willie Street, Limberlost, across the city. Some of the kids that maybe don't have the fiscal advantages of others. And we also do other things like it could be piano lessons, ballet lessons, or cultural activities. And it isn't just giving it to a kid because maybe they're not financially fortunate. It's a kid that showed a real interest in sports as well, or cultural activities that maybe couldn't continue because of financial difficulties. So we're still open to any suggestions of someone that was coming along. And it's funny, you mentioned the Damian Warner story. Years ago, someone came and said, there's a fellow, and he comes from a poor background, and he lives with his mother and his sister. And I wondered if the fund could help out. These were people we respected that mentioned it. And we made a modest donation, and that turned into the world's greatest athlete, Damian Warner. So we asked Damian to come out to Labatt Park for the 30th anniversary. He came with his wife, Jen, and his son, Theo, and we thought he was a no-show. He was just modestly sitting up in the back row at Labatt Park. We didn't even know it. And the media covered the story, but there's no mention of him. But that was him giving his time and appreciation. He was really inspiring to a lot of the other kids that said, I went to the same school as you, and things like this. So it really brings it home that you can get through and help some people out. So one of the things we had where we kept this limited over the years was because if somebody said that's a good cause, you spend 100 cents on the dollar on the kids, there's no administration costs. The fact was, if somebody wrote a check to Joe Cools, it'd be regarded as a sale, and the company be paying taxes on it and all this. So we talked to Diane Silva from the London Community Foundation. Give a wave there, Diane. And she set it up, and it's terrific because the London Community Foundation doesn't take a penny. But now, when we put the money in, the employee can even get they were doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, but they can get a tax receipt at the end of the year. And if an outsider said, I like that cause, I'd like to make a donation, they can get it, and it's not regarded as a sale to our business. It can go directly through the London Community Foundation. And so I want to mention the other names of people here that have done most of the work. I want to say, first of all, I want to introduce my fantastic and more than tolerant wife, Ann. Next to her, my rotten son, Sam, and his angel brother, Charlie. No, just joking. Over in the corner, it's Amy Montgomery, a manager who works with all the employees and tells them, what our plan is. No one's forced to do this, but nobody really says no to it. And then I want to get down to Ron Scarfoni, because Ron retired from us. He managed to get out. I'm still stuck in there. But Ron did so much work on this. And as I said, it's great that Ali gets here and just compliments me and doesn't say anything about Ron. But Ron did all the work, except Nora Kelly, our controller bookkeeper. Nora is the one that's done all the paperwork on submitting, taking the money off, putting our money in and doing it. So Nora's done a ton of work. So all our employees, on behalf of all of them, they appreciate this honor. It's for our business. And in the future, if anybody is interested, likes the cause, we'd like to share the plan with other people if they want. It's not a Joe Cools plan per se. It's for the kids. And working with the police on this is fantastic, as we have with our Clean and Green project, which he's done for years too. So it's great cooperating with the police. And also the big thing is these kids get to meet the police in a positive mode and get introduced to them on the good they bring to the community. So thanks once again.
I'll end on this, Mike. You talk about Ron. Long time ago, late 90s, there was a massive lineup to get into Cools. And I thought I could get through to the front, say I know Mike Smith. It got me nowhere. But when I said, yeah, Ron, I know Ron, I said, oh, hey, right there front. So I know where the power is there. But Ron, I know you retired recently, and I've known you for a long time, and everything I said about Mike applies to you and then some. And so thank you for all your time. There's faces in the city of London that everybody, even if they don't know your name, or they know the person based on the face. And so Ron Scarfoni is definitely one of those faces there. So thank you so much to all of you, and to your family, and to everybody for everything. So again, thank you. And I actually don't think we can end any meeting on a happier note than that, right? And so on a more somber note, the next London Police Services Board meeting is October 19th, 2023. So mark your calendars. And with that, I'll need somebody to motion to adjourn. Fitting member Goss on his first meeting shuts her down, right? So motion to adjourn, moved there, seconded by member Branscombe. I know no one is opposed to that. And with that, we'll see you on the 19th. Thank you so much.